when we own our stories, we own our lives. And you said something earlier about maybe some people aren't always certain that they have something worth
Mm-hmm.
saying or
Mm-hmm.
celebrating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, everybody has a story. And you don't realize you have stories,
Mm-hmm.
plural, right? Until you start to see them in a different way and make the connections that we make in guided autobiography. Some people have a desire to leave those stories as a legacy for their loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm going to be starting an ethical wills class in the fall just because a lot of people
Excellent.
are interested in
Big
that.
need.
But
Yeah.
yes, but other people are they just want the experience of reflecting. Some people, they might want to do an article or blogs or potentially a book, but you don't have to, and you don't need any writing experience, which is also important. So it's really, really wonderful. And I feel like I've become a story muse.
Look at
Uh,
that.
I've become a story muse, and I'm holding everybody's stories, and it's wonderful. So,
No, I think that's great because what you're describing is the metamorphosis that as women, we sometimes don't even know is in process. And I go back to this when you see the butterfly going around with all its beauty and its glory, it
right,
came from that chubby little caterpillar that went into the
yeah,
cocoon and didn't
right.
know what it was
You're
going to turn into.
you're
Something just told it, get in there.
you're so right.
Yeah.
And there are men who take guided autobiography, but by and large, it's women.
Okay.
So I would love to make a special plug. I have 6 classes right now a week. It's a lot, which is
Fantastic.
fantastic. And I'm not going to teach over the summer because I have a couple of book projects going on
Oh,
also.
okay.
But I am already, there's already a wait list for the fall. So I encourage viewers, listeners to reach out to me, and love to give them a taste of what it's all about, because I just feel it's life changing.
Absolutely. In fact, if you want to go ahead and share the means by which they would get in touch with you, I'll make sure it's included in the description. Do you
Oh,
have
sure.
email
I
or?
can. Well, the best thing is just to email me at nsharp@nancysharp.net. I will actually send you a link, a more direct link to the guided autobiography page.
Perfect.
But yeah,
No, that'd be fantastic.
yeah.
And while we're on that subject of career, we are curious. What do you view as highlights of your career? Either some obstacle that you successfully overcame or some achievement that really, really added to your joy?
Well, hmm. As I talked about early on, I was in public relations.
Hmm.
I guess there are two. Could I give two things?
Absolutely, please.
So one was I got a job as the head of national media relations for UNICEF, the
Oh,
United Nations Children's Fund.
right.
And that was really the opportunity and the experience of a lifetime, because it opened up my entire world, and it taught me so much and exposed me just to the challenges that women and children, especially in the developing world, face.
Right.
And that was unbelievable. There were so many experiences I had working with UNICEF. I went on to become their first national public relations director, hired consultants around the country. I traveled to places I will never again go in my lifetime, probably.
Amazing.
And I felt that I was serving, right? So I was serving. One of the things we did that really was incredible was we were involved with the Atlanta Olympic Games in
Hmm.
1996. I don't know. I hope some of your listeners were born. After that, I don't even know. But it was the Atlanta Olympics in 1996, and we did a huge project with the Olympics, and we raised $12.5 million for children affected in war. Uh,
Wow.
that was a proud moment. I guess the other career high for me would be publishing my first book, which is no small endeavor.
Hmm.
And, just finally getting my story out into the world, and that was just a huge accomplishment for me.
And I'm so glad that you point out that as we walk through our journeys as we go through this thing called life, there's going to be highlights. There's going to be these elements where you look back and they inspire yourself. And you start wondering and just marveling at the idea that there is no limit. We have to be convinced there is no limit to what we can accomplish. And that's when we see these huge things manifest.
Right.
Whenever we have the fear and the doubt show up. And, a lot of people point out, ignore the naysayers. But sometimes that naysayer is yourself. But the minute that we shut that down, big things.
The naysayer is always myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the progress and the growth happen for me when I challenge my own limiting beliefs, right? And I just put them aside and, I just go forward. And sometimes it's just baby steps. I have a saying that resilience is built on small wins.
Nice.
It's really not about the big, bold home runs. I mean, sometimes that happens, but more often than not, all you want to do is just get to first base. Get to first base.
Yeah. Just start. Just start.
Start the process and keep going forward.
And when you talk about those baby steps, I visualize you're at the beach and it's high tide. So you see this giant wave rolling in. But did you think about all the collective little droplets that compose that wave? We see the wave, but it wouldn't be a wave without all those tiny components. So You're so right.
No, right. It's a beautiful metaphor you created.
Thank you. So curious, who would you say are your top sources of inspiration? What keeps you going?
Who or what?
Either or.
I love to meditate. I have to say I started meditating really in earnest a few years ago. I love Headspace. I absolutely love Headspace. And it's really been a wonderful experience. I would say also that journaling is really important to me too. Making the time every day, every other day, just to sort of put pen to paper. And those things are important because I need time as I'm serving others also to be able to reflect a little bit more about what's going on inside me. I live in Colorado and now, which was a part of my story. I am an East Coaster, as I said originally, but after my first husband died and I was trying to figure out what now, what next, that process led me to Colorado, where my best friend lived a few years later. And I was in part drawn by the mountains. I love the open mountains. I love the sunshine of Colorado. I love being able to fix my gaze right on a point. When I was in New York, I had many dear friends, one of whom was a reverend. And he actually used to be, he was a reverend, and he used to be at one point the social justice minister at the Riverside Church, which is a beautiful, beautiful church in the upper west side of Manhattan, about 30 blocks from where I lived. Anyway, we would walk his dog, and we would have these fabulous talks about life and the meaning of life and spirituality. And I started talking about Colorado because I really was feeling stuck. I'm talking like a year and a half after my husband died. And of course, it had been a long haul. And I'm beginning to feel by this point, I got to get out of New York. Something has to change. I just can't do this anymore. And I started to talk about the mountains and life. And he reminded me of the beautiful Psalm, from whence shall my help come? I shall look at the mountains.
Yeah.
And
And you did it.
I did do it. I did do it. And, I did it. My kids had just turned 5. Oh, wow. I said, I knew one person here, my friend Julie, who I mentioned, but I had no family support. I mean, I had preemie twins with some stuff. Oh. But I just decided, you know what? I'm going to do it because why not? What do I have to lose? Right? If it doesn't work out, I'll go somewhere else. So.
Good for you.
I'm a proponent of leaps. I think it's important to be able to take leaps of faith.
Yes. Yeah. Right. What part of Colorado are you in?
I live in Denver.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I ask, I'm not sure if I shared. So my father was military, and a lot of my exposure early on was just because of his assignments. So
Right.
I was 9 years old when we were sent to Colorado Springs,
Oh, yes, it's beautiful.
and coming from East Coast Florida flat and going there, I remember my mouth hitting the floor in the back of the car as we drive in, thinking, are those mountains real? It was like
It's
you described,
unreal.
majestic,
It's majestic.
pristine. And
Yeah.
I remember the deer there are different from the deer in Florida because, they don't get cold
Right.
winters here.
Oh, that's
And
like night and day. Right.
yeah, if you catch one of those in the middle of the road, respect.
Right.
But yeah, I distinctly remember the gorgeous, breathtaking beauty. So to be
You know,
surrounded by that, good for
we
you.
get more sunshine than Florida does.
Overall, yeah.
So Colorado has more sunny states than any other state in the country.
Well, look at that. Good
So
to know.
I think it's a lovely place to live. My entire family, everybody is still back east, but this is home. This is my happy place. This is the place I think that grounds me, and the mountains ground me. And I love it here.
Beautiful, beautiful. So important. So the last two questions are a bit more hypothetical.
Okay.
The first one, if you were given $1 million, no stipulations, how do you spend it and why?
Oh my goodness. $1 million. Well, it's interesting. I would make sure my kids' college education was paid for.
Nice.
I would make sure that I had enough tucked away, right, for some retirement. I would make sure my mom and dad are okay. I would, there's nothing I want to buy, really. I mean, I'd like to start a foundation.
Look at that.
I read, I was reading one of Warren Buffett's books, a biography about him, because I'm actually doing a book project where he's involved.
Oh, wonderful.
And I read that his sister had a foundation where she was making individual small micro grants to people. And I have always thought I would love to do something like that, right? Where, I don't know, you're giving people maybe $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. I'm not talking about nonprofits. I'm talking about individuals. That would really turn me on.
Look at that. Look at that. And it would change lives.
I think so, because I'm all about, I just like serving, and I like making a direct impact in people's lives. I think the directness matters.
No, that's superb. And, every time I ask that question, I get that pause, because no one ever stops to think, could that happen to me? But one never knows what a day would bring. But your answer is superb, because I'm a very big advocate. The more you give, the more you get.
Yeah.
And you've spent your life doing that. So
I do that all the time. And for me, quite frankly, one of the strategy, everybody, in order to become more resilient, empowered, bold, whatever word you're going to use, we need strategies to do it. Everybody needs her own strategy. My number one strategy is kindness.
Right.
The kinder I am, the bolder I feel. Here's a crazy story for your listeners, viewers.
Please, yeah.
So, about less than a year ago, it was still in the midst of the pandemic, I was taking a walk with a friend, and of course we've got our masks on, and we're walking at a neighborhood park, and this friend of mine grew up here, so she knows a gazillion people, but I don't. So we stop, she sees two people she knows, and one of these women says, I love your skirt. I was wearing a black skirt, a skirt short thing.
Yeah.
This whole thing, like, oh, okay. I got it from Costco. And she said, really, I love it. Can I look at that, please? I was like, okay. So she comes behind me, and she's looking back at the label and stuff. And I was like, really, Leora, I got it at Costco just a couple days ago. It was $12.99, if you live nearby, I mean, I go to Costco enough. I'm sure I could pick one up for you. It's not a big deal. She said, oh, would you? That would be great. I have a very busy work schedule and I would love that. I was like, no problem. I'll be happy to. So she texts me her information. A few days later, I go to Costco. I get her the skirt in her size. I text her. She Venmos me. I think nothing of it. Several months later, I guess we're Facebook friends. I didn't even know it. And she was reading about my guided autobiography workshops. And then she emails me. She said, I love what you're doing. Hey, do you ever do any private coaching? I have a book I've been working on. I'd like to talk to you about it. Now, I only do private book coaching very selectively. But I said, okay, give me a call. Let's talk. It turns out the woman is one of the nation's foremost sex crimes prosecutor in the United States.
Wow. And
so she hires me to help her as a developmental editor for her book. She's like kick butt women, kick butt women, attorney representing women and children who have been assaulted. I was like, and all because I bought the woman a skirt. You never know.
You never know.
Happen.
You never know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I tell everyone, you never know when opportunity is going to show up. So keep the door open, keep the window open.
Keep, $1 million can come to me, and I would just love to be able to make individual microgrants. I love that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. And, the second question, if you could jump in a time machine and travel back and face your younger self, what advice are you giving? What are you telling 20-year-old Nancy?
I will say that I would say to 20-year-old Nancy that all of the anxiety you feel about your life, all of the uncertainty about the direction of your life, all of, the fitfulness of who you are because you don't have a strong sense of self, you're going to get there. And you're going to get there. And to not be afraid and to trust your voice, to keep stepping forward, but to trust a little bit more.
That is so monumental. And the reason I always ask that question is if someone young out there is listening, learn from those that have gone before, and then to remind ourselves that there's still so much life ahead. So when you start implementing that today, what does it look like for you 20 years from now?
And I think that it's such an interesting question. It's a great question. It's a wonderful question because one of the benefits about aging is wisdom.
Amen.
Right. So wisdom. Most of us don't have a lot of wisdom when we're 20 years old. But I think to the degree that you can get to know yourself, you're going to be better off.
Absolutely.
And so be open and curious about being the best self you can be. Don't get hung up on, materialistic things. Don't get hung up on chasing, the next best shiny object. It doesn't matter. Get to know yourself. And yourself, your empowered self, is going to lead you places.
I love that because it's like scripture says, things are just things. They get old, they decompose, they get stolen. You can't trust things. But if you continue to work on you, that reinvent and that growth is amazing.
There's one other thing that I would say, because you just mentioned the scriptures. So I had the incredible opportunity to work with Ambassador Andrew Young, who was the mayor of Atlanta and one of the, country's foremost civil rights leaders. He walked with Martin Luther King.
Right.
And he wrote his spiritual memoirs, and they were called A Way Out of No Way. And they made a big impact on me when I read them. And I still think about meeting him as really a huge highlight in my life. But I think about that phrase too, a way out of no way. And
Hmm.
I think when we're young, we don't always see there is a way out of no way. And that's what I mean about the leaps of faith and trust.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. What I want to close on is your definition of resilience. You said it's choosing not to be defined by the things that have happened to you or the things that haven't happened for you. So, given that that's what you embrace, how important would you say that living with that mindset is during these tough times?
Well, I would say that the definition of resilience is a little bit different.
Hmm.
I would say that the definition of resilience is learning to integrate the lessons and the losses so
Hmm.
that we can be poised to change and grow. Right?
Nice.
We don't get to move forward unless we learn to integrate the lessons and the losses. We have to be able to transcend them, but we
Hmm.
can't transcend them if we don't learn from them.
Agreed.
So I'm sorry, repeat what it was you asked me.
So, how would you say that having that particular mindset is going to help people, women, really recover from the effects of this
Oh,
pandemic?
of the pandemic. I
Yeah.
think it's everything. I think it's everything because I think that if women don't pay attention to how their lives have been changed, perhaps dramatically, and I certainly hope that not too many of your viewers or listeners have suffered personal losses during this pandemic, but everybody has had loss. We have all lost during this pandemic. We have lost our sense of trust in the world as it
Right.
was,
Right.
right? We're all living with more uncertainty than we ever had before. There's a lot to be learned from this, right? One of the key things that I really encourage women to take stock of is, what does it mean?
Hmm.
What does it mean to me? And why does it matter? And how do I want to live my life going forward?
Couldn't agree more. Well, your insights have been powerful. We are so happy you made time in your schedule to stop by and grace us with your
Oh, I'm
presence.
so thrilled to be with you.
We wish you nothing but continued success in all these endeavors you're taking on.
Thank you.
And, we just want to take a moment and say to the listening audience, when it comes to change, it all starts now. If you want something, go out, get it, make it happen. Wishing you all safety and happiness, and see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to share this video and like, comment, and subscribe. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at NewYouWow. Until next time, stand tall in your power and remember, your belief in yourself is your superpower.